Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gandhi. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight on Gravitas is on what's happening in Bangladesh with the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, sentenced to death by Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal. We get you a complete lowdown of where things stand and the larger implications. What does this mean for the country's political landscape? Would this mean that the Jamaat-e-Islami holds more influence in the country now more than ever before? All this is coming up in just a bit. Also on the show for you tonight, the latest on the Russia-Ukraine war. It's a race against time for Ukraine to save Pokrovsk. We also get to the other key updates coming in from the battlefield. Was the highly volatile explosive also called the Mother of Satan used in the deadly Delhi Red Fort blast? We tell you what has emerged so far. All this and more coming up.
Sheikh Hasina be found guilty. We have decided to inflict her with only one sentence, that is sentence of death.
Five decades after surviving the 1975 assassination of her family, former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has now been sentenced to death. A court in Dhaka has found the leader guilty of crimes against humanity linked to the violent crackdown on protesters during the 2024 July movement.
We have decided to inflict her with only one sentence, that is sentence of death. It is hereby ordered that accused Sheikh Hasina be found guilty on 3 counts under charge 1. Count number 1, incitement. Count number 2, order to kill. Count number 3, inaction to prevent the atrocities and failing to take punitive actions against the perpetrators.
And following the announcement, Bangladesh's interim government issued a statement calling the ruling a historic verdict. The statement urged people across the country to remain calm, avoid unrest, respect the rule of law. Sheikh Hasina, who fled to India after massive unrest led to her ouster, was convicted of ordering attacks on demonstrators, failing to protect civilians and ignoring repeated summons. The tribunal said her absence from the trial suggested guilt. According to the International Crimes Tribunal there, Hasina incited violence, issued orders that led to the killing of protesters and allowed the use of excessive force on student-led demonstrations. The court held her responsible for the deadly response to the anti-quota protests. The unrest that escalated after her controversial comment questioning whether quota benefits should go to, quote-unquote, the grandchildren of Razakars. In fact, Sheikh Hasina has rejected the verdict outright, calling it politically motivated. An Awami League statement quoted her as saying the case was driven by personal pursuit of revenge against a democratically elected government. She says she was denied a fair chance to defend herself, claiming that she never received due legal process. She has also questioned the credibility of the tribunal itself, saying that there is nothing international about the International Crimes Tribunal in the country, and that the guilty verdict was, quote unquote, a foregone conclusion. Sheikh Hasina, who is one of the region's most influential political figures, served multiple terms as Prime Minister and played a central role in shaping modern Bangladesh. But her tenure was also marked by accusations of heavy-handed governance, a shrinking democratic space, and intensive crackdowns on opposition forces. Now, her remarks came during the protest there, and the subsequent violent response eventually ignited that movement that led to her removal from office. This was in August 2024. Hasina has been living in self-imposed exile in India since then, after the student protesters forced her and her Awami League political party out of power. Dhaka has formally asked New Delhi to hand over Sheikh Hasina. In fact, the US government sent the request citing the existing extradition agreements between the two countries. Officials in Dhaka said giving shelter to convicted leaders would be seen as an unfriendly act and a violation of treaty obligations. The verdict against her is now being seen as a potential political opening for Jamaat-e-Islami, a group that was heavily targeted under Sheikh Hasina's rule. And with the former Prime Minister out of the picture and the Awami League weakened, Jamaat-e-Islami appears to be repositioning itself in Bangladesh's politics. Jamaat's origins tracing back to pre-independence of India, but its role during Bangladesh's 1971 liberation war is particularly contentious. The party actively collaborated with the Pakistani military, forming several paramilitary groups which were responsible for heinous crimes against Bengali nationalists and minorities. As Pakistan seeks to re-establish its influence in Bangladesh, the resurgence of Jamaat-e-Islami provides it with the political foothold it needs to stage a comeback. In fact, for more than 15 years under Sheikh Hasina, Jamaat-e-Islami was banned for its radical activities. Its top leaders were executed after being convicted by the International Crimes Tribunal for collaboration with the Pakistan Army during the 1971 war. Hundreds of Jamaat activists were jailed or allegedly killed extrajudicially. The party was unregistered and was banned on August 1, 2025, just days before Sheikh Hasina fled. But since Hasina's ouster, the situation has shifted. Under the interim government led by Muhammad Yunus, the ban on Jamaat and its student wing was lifted. Jamaat-e-Islami has re-emerged as a significant political force and is rapidly expanding its international outreach. A few months ago, it held meetings, in fact, with diplomats and officials from several countries, including Pakistan. Analysts saying this global engagement is helping Jamaat position itself as a legitimate player on the world stage, marking a major shift in Bangladesh's political dynamics. And with all of these developments coming just months ahead of the elections in Bangladesh, many are now asking a rather troubling question. Has Bangladesh entered a new political era, one where Jamaat holds more influence than ever before? On to the latest on the Russia-Ukraine war now. Ukraine is racing against time. While Ukraine was busy pouring more men and more weapons into saving Pokrovsk, a city on the brink of falling, Russia quietly opened a whole new front in the south. Over the weekend, Russian forces captured 2 settlements in the Zaporizhia region, exposing 2 strategically important towns vulnerable to a potential Russian encirclement. Capturing these villages may sound minor right now, but it exposes Orikhiv and Losing them would mean Russia gets a corridor straight towards Zaporizhia and the gateway to the Dnipro. For 6 weeks now, Russia has pushed nearly 19 miles across the axis, while Ukrainian troops were being diverted north to hold Pokrovsk, a city now logged in fog, street battles, Russian infiltration squads. Pokrovsk is at the risk of falling, and reinforcing it has left the south thinly defended. How exactly did things reach this point? For 6 weeks now, Russia has pushed nearly 19 miles across this axis, while Ukrainian troops were being diverted north to hold Pokrovsk, a city that we just told you has been facing street battles and Russian infiltration squads. In fact, reinforcing Pokrovsk has left the south thinly defended, like we said. Ukraine's own top commander himself flagged the dire situation. To quote him, the situation has become significantly worsened. Now, holding off the Russians here will be of utmost significance for the Ukrainians. Even Ukrainian analysts are sounding the alarm. Military bloggers are warning that Ukraine is heading towards what they described as a strategic scale catastrophe. A scenario where, unless something changes, Russian tanks could roll into Zaporizhia or the Dnipro. It seems like there is a tacit admission of what we have all been saying for a long time now. Ukraine's defense has fallen apart. Meanwhile, Russia continues to attack where Ukraine is overstretched. It now occupies about 70% of Zaporizhia, not the regional capital, but most of the eastern and southern territory. And after weeks of downplaying the losses, Ukraine has admitted withdrawing from positions around 5 settlements, blaming Russian artillery, bad weather, and manpower shortages. The Ukrainian president, meanwhile, traveled to the region last week, calling the situation near Orikov one of the most difficult anywhere along the front. The Russian Ministry of Defense, meanwhile, said in its latest report that over the past 24 hours, the Russian forces continue to advance deep into the Ukrainian defenses, gaining control of 2 more settlements in the Zaporizhia region. The Russian Defense Ministry has said Russia's tactical aviation, missile troops, artillery units targeted energy facilities that support Ukrainian military enterprises, drone assembly workshops, and 141 areas used by Ukrainian troops and foreign mercenaries. Also on Sunday, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine said its defense forces attacked the Kubyshev refinery in Russia's Samara region, which is one of the main producers of advanced fuel for Russian military jet engines. The strike resulted in explosions and fires. Ukraine also confirmed the previous attack on an oil refinery in the Russian city of Ryazan, saying that both the crude oil distillation unit and storage tanks at the facility were damaged. On the same day, Russian missiles killed 3 people, injured 11 more in Kharkiv region on Sunday night. Regional administration head there, 4 girls who were of the ages of 12, 14, 15 and 17 were among those injured, as per the statement. Elsewhere, Russian strike drones attacked Odessa region overnight, damaging energy and port infrastructure in several parts. And the way things stand right now, 2 things are happening basically. In Pokrovsk, the Ukrainians are working hard to defend the city. In Zaporizhia, Russia is making slow and an opportunistic push, while keeping the other front active with missile attacks, strikes, counterstrikes. It's a battle that is forcing Ukraine to choose where to hold the line and where to give it up. Meanwhile, Ukraine unveiled its newest battle-tested Flamingo cruise missile, a homegrown weapon now at the center of the war-torn country's war efforts and a mounting corruption probe. Crowdfunded in just 2 days, painted by hand and already striking deep inside Russia, this missile symbolizes Ukraine's growing defense ambitions, but its maker is under scrutiny, even as it brings former US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo onto its new advisory board. Take a look. Shifting focus for now, the Pacific Rim is burning. Japan and China are now locked in a deadly game of brinkmanship. The lines are drawn in the Taiwan Strait. A single spark could ignite total war. Our next story taking a closer look at how Japan, the only country to suffer from the Tokyo and Beijing tensions, is accelerating towards a flashpoint that could destroy the global order. Take a look.
The skies are now battlegrounds. Japan scrambled combat jets after spotting a suspected Chinese drone, an eye in the sky skirting perilously close to Taiwan's airspace. The gloves are off, diplomatic niceties have been jettisoned. China is escalating the pressure, turning the pressure on Tokyo. China's fierce response was immediate. It has issued a stern travel warning for its citizens against visiting Japan and a blistering warning to Takaichi, warning her not to play with fire.
We urge Japan to act responsibly toward history and bilateral relations by ceasing to cross the line and play with fire, retracting erroneous words and deeds, and genuinely translating its commitments to China into concrete actions.
The stakes have soared. Japan is now openly debating hosting US nuclear weapons, a seismic shift from its post-war pacifism. The island nation that once bore the devastation of atomic bombs is now considering becoming a nuclear host. For Tokyo, it's a shield. For Beijing, it's a red line escalation. Behind the rising tensions, efforts are now on containment. Tokyo has rushed a senior envoy to try to ease tensions with Beijing as stock markets in both countries fell. Chinese airlines have begun offering free refunds to citizens who cancel flights to or from Japan before December 31st.
My personal view is that since the government has said to avoid to Japan, then it's best to go less.
The words from Japan's PM Takaichi are extremely unreasonable. That's me being polite.
The specter of a nuclear-armed, remilitarized Japan is now a terrifying reality, driven by the clear and present danger posed by Beijing's massive military expansion. The time for caution is over. The countdown to a regional confrontation has begun.
And for the first time in its history, Taiwan is sending a wartime handbook to every single home on the island. 9.8 million of them. Not a pamphlet, not a public advisory as such, a full civil defense guide with instructions on what to do if you see enemy soldiers, how to survive an invasion. A very clear warning. Any message claiming that Taiwan has surrendered is fake. Do not believe it. This is not routine disaster preparedness. Now, this is in fact, Taiwan, which is preparing its citizens for the worst case scenario, an invasion at the hands of China. Taiwan calls it a civil defense handbook. The authorities are convinced that China's coercion is entering a whole new phase. The booklet was unveiled in September. This week, it goes out to every household in Chinese, English, and soon in multiple foreign languages. And it tells the public exactly what to expect. Bomb shelters, evacuation routes, how to build an emergency kit, what to do if you run into enemy soldiers. And there's another important part, one that tells you about the fear that Taiwan lives in. Any announcement claiming that Taiwan has surrendered must be assumed false. Why that reminder specifically? Because Taiwan's National Security Council believes disinformation will be among the first weapons used in a conflict situation. False surrender notices, fake presidential statements, fabricated broadcasts, all aimed at breaking public morale. The Deputy Secretary General of Taiwan's National Security Council oversaw the handbook and said, I'm quoting, "This booklet shows our determination to defend ourselves. We need people across the Taiwan Strait to understand that there will be a huge cost if China makes the wrong decision," quote unquote. It's also a message for Beijing and the world. Taiwan basically wants to show that its people will not panic, will not collapse, and will not surrender their future. Which then brings us to the next question: why now? According to Taiwan, China has changed its playbook as well. Taiwan says China is no longer dealing with isolated provocations, but with hybrid warfare every day. The handbook outlines scenarios including sabotage of undersea cables, cyber attacks, inspection of Taiwanese vessels by an enemy nation, and lastly, a potential full-scale invasion. Remember, China claims Taiwan as its national territory. It has not ruled out force to what it calls reunite it with the mainland. And in the last few years, it has steadily increased military activity around Taiwan. Fighter jets, bombers, naval drills, missile tests. But Taiwan rejects China's claims entirely. It says only Taiwan's people can decide their own future. But it's not taking any chances. It is preparing for the worst, clearly. So what happens here onwards? The government will reportedly now run campaigns to help people, assemble emergency kits, identify the nearest shelters, understand how to communicate if networks go down, and know what to do if the island is cut off from the outside world. For Taiwan, this is no longer hypothetical what if. Clearly, preparations are underway. Shifting focus, it's been a week since the blast took place in Delhi. Now, investigators have zeroed in on a highly volatile explosive suspected to have been used in that attack. Triacetone triperoxide, infamously known as the mother of Satan. Earlier, the police suspected that ammonium nitrate was used in the I-20 car blast near the Red Fort on the 10th of November. At least 10 people declared dead, multiple injured. The prime suspect is a doctor named Omar Nabi. But the focus now shifts to TATP, as it's commonly called. It's one of the most unstable chemical explosives in the world. It can detonate with minimal trigger, even a spark. Static electricity, friction, or slight heat could set it off. This extreme volatility makes it both highly dangerous and difficult for the security forces to handle or trace. Investigators believe this may explain why the Red Fort blast did not require a detonator. CCTV footage showing the suicide bomber placing a large bag on the back seat of a Hyundai i20, which occupied almost half the rear interior. That bag is now suspected to have contained the explosive device. The resulting blast was so powerful that officials say the shockwave was felt 50 meters underground, scattering body parts and debris across a 50-meter radius. Mother of Satan's reputation globally is well documented. It has been used in several high-profile attacks, including the 2017 Barcelona attacks, the 2017 Manchester bombing, the 2016 Brussels attacks, the 2015 Paris attack. Experts have long warned that TATP is an accident waiting to happen due to its unpredictable nature, making it hazardous not only during an attack but also while being moved or stored. But as the probe widens, the National Investigation Agency has made another breakthrough in the case. Earlier, NIA arrested Amir Rashid Ali, a resident of Sambura in Jammu and Kashmir. Authorities saying he conspired with the suicide bomber to plan and execute the attack and facilitated the purchase of the car used as the vehicle-borne IED. A Delhi court has sent him to 10-day NIA custody. NIA has also arrested another key associate of the man involved in the blast. Jasir Bilal, who is also a Kashmiri resident, was arrested from Srinagar in Jammu and Kashmir. The NIA revealed that Jasir had allegedly provided technical support for carrying out terror attacks by modifying drones and attempting to make rockets ahead of the blast. The NIA is now focused on reconstructing the full chain of events and the network behind this high-impact terror plot. Forensic teams are analyzing the explosive, while investigators are working to trace possible links to other individuals or groups involved. Officials warn that the use of TATP given its extreme sensitivity, could point to a level of planning and knowledge that makes this attack particularly alarming if TATP was used. While the final forensic reports are still awaited, sources saying the combination of TATP with other chemicals like ammonium nitrate and fuel oil possibly could have resulted in a device weighing between 40 to 50 kilograms, was capable of massive destruction. And as the investigation continues, authorities stressing the importance of vigilance and public cooperation. The Red Fort blast has sent shockwaves across the capital and the country, while the NIA is working round the clock to uncover the complete network behind the attack, ensuring that those responsible are brought to justice. Also on the show for you tonight, as the US-Venezuela tensions escalate further, where are things headed? What exactly are zombie cigarettes? Why are they called that? Why is Japan concerned? And how serious is the threat? We break it all down for you. India's Chief of Army Staff has outlined key lessons from Operation Sindoor at the Chanakya Defence Dialogue in Delhi. He highlighted how the action and capabilities of the armed forces gave a reality check to the hostile neighbor. Listen into this.
मैं तो ये कहना चाहूँगा कि मूवी शुरू भी नहीं हुई थी.
Operation Sindoor was just a trailer which ended in 88 hours. We are prepared for any circumstances in future. If Pakistan gives a chance, we will teach it how to behave responsibly with a neighboring nation.
ऐसा हमें मौका देता है पाकिस्तान, तो हम उसको भरपूर एक शिक्षा प्रदान करना चाहेंगे उसको कि कैसे एक जिम्मेवार नेशन को अपने पड़ोसियों से बिहेव करना चाहिए.
He also highlighted three crucial takeaways from the operation: the need for integration between the armed forces, ensuring adequate supplies for prolonged engagements, and making decisions at every level of the command chain. He also said the operation has helped India set a new normal in responding to terror threats, that terror and terror sponsors will be treated alike.
मेरे ख्याल से ये तो एक बड़ी चेतावनी बन के रहेगी, क्योंकि जब
When a country encourages state-sponsored terrorism, it becomes a matter of concern for India. India talks about progress. If someone creates obstacles in our course, then we will have to take some action against them. When we talk about the new normal, we have said that talks and terror can't go together. All we are asking is to adopt a peaceful process, which we will cooperate with. Until then, we will treat terrorists and their sponsors alike.
Water can't flow together. Talks and terror can't be together. यानी बातचीत, संवाद और आतंकवाद एक साथ नहीं चल सकता है.
The Pahalgam terror attack early this year, when Pakistan-based terrorists targeted Hindu tourists, killing 26 people in cold blood after asking for their religion. In response, on May 7, remember, India launched precision strikes under Operation Sindoor, targeting terror infrastructure across Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Pakistan, in retaliation, attempted attacks on Indian military bases. India responded firmly to those provocations, demonstrating the readiness and also the resolve of the country's armed forces. Hostilities were finally ceased following talks between the Directors General of Military Operations from the two sides on May 10, resulting in an agreement to halt military actions. However, India has always maintained that the operation is in a paused state and has not fully terminated, with Prime Minister Modi having warned repeatedly that any future act of terror would be treated as an act of war. Caribbean waters are on the boil. America's war machine is on the move, and Donald Trump is putting the lever on a gamble that could reshape the Western Hemisphere. A showdown building, Venezuela now lying squarely in the crosshairs. Our next report taking a closer look at the American military moves which show the threat of a full-blown war is real.
The shadow of war now looms over the Caribbean. America's USS Gerald R. Ford has plowed into South American waters. It is the world's largest aircraft carrier and the largest warship ever constructed. It is flanked by missile destroyers and a swarm of aircraft, with 12,000 US troops on high alert. Trump's Whirlwind, a campaign of precision naval strikes, 21 explosive operations in a matter of weeks, allegedly smashed Venezuelan narco boats, leaving casualties in their wake.
It allows us to do that, but we haven't said we're going to do that. And we may be having some discussions with Maduro, and we'll see how that turns out. They would like to talk.
But behind that rhetoric and diplomatic outreach, there is a far more dangerous calculus. US military planners reportedly have options on the table, including strikes on Venezuelan soil. The build-up for America's Operation Southern Spear is massive. The carrier strike group brings stealth fighters, long-range missiles, surveillance aircraft, and more than 4,000 extra troops. Trump insists that he doesn't need Congress to act, as he has the firepower to follow through. Analysts say the US is sitting on enough Tomahawk missiles to strike deep. Venezuela's response has been fierce. Maduro has publicly declared maximum preparedness, mobilizing troops, civilian militias, and issuing fiery warnings. He is calling the American buildup a blatant imperial push, not a counter-narcotics mission.
It is to the people of the United States that I speak to at this moment, before these 100 jurists from 34 countries, to say, stop the insane hand of those who order bombing, killing and bringing war to South America, to the Caribbean. Stop the war. No to war.
This entire American operation hinges on one razor-thin element: surprise. The White House is banking on speed, ensuring that the world thinks this is 0 hour. Every minute that passes increases the risk of escalation. The world watches. Will Trump start a war as he aspires to get a Nobel Peace Prize for stopping multiple conflicts? Bureau Report, WION. World is One.
Our next story is from Israel. It's about a new report that paints a rather grim picture about the country's food security. Let's just dive straight in. The report is by the National Insurance Institute, NII, and according to it, more than a quarter of households in Israel live in food insecurity. How much is that in terms of numbers? About 2.8 million people. And here's the other part to this. Of this, over 1 million are children. According to the report, while there's been a slight improvement from 2023, the gaps remain deep and the consequences for the economy may lead to harming productivity, increasing public health spending, and also burdening the welfare budget. The report basically reveals a wide-ranging phenomenon that directly affects the Israeli economy. What explains all of this? First, here's some context. Let's just take a step back here. Even before the Hamas attack, food security has been a concern in Israel. This report by the Jerusalem Post, for example, outlines how it became a national concern. It also talks about the vulnerabilities in Israel's food security system with a mix of factors at play, including reliance on labor from foreign workers. Just to break this down further, according to it, even before the October 7 attacks, particularly at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, food security in Israel increased in importance as it became a focal point of national concern. So add to that the current war along with the pandemic and also add climate change to the mix. So that's what the country has been dealing with. And the result has been challenges to the food production and distribution systems, just to put this simply. The war, of course, marked a crucial turning point for the country's food security. And going back to the report by the National Insurance Institute, it calls for the formulation of a national plan to reduce food insecurity, including increasing direct food aid budgets while supervising and monitoring food quality, expanding nutrition programs in the education system in the disadvantaged areas, updating subsistence allowances and social insurance according to the increase in the cost of living, and also implementing multi-year measurable goals to reduce the social gaps. After all, food insecurity is not a social problem, but also an economic one, leaving families that cannot afford healthy food facing a number of challenges. Japan is fighting a drug crisis it has never seen before. A new intoxicant, a sedative-laced vape, is surging in popularity and has become a new source of headache for the authorities there. It's called zombie cigarettes. The drug is so potent, it can reportedly shut down parts of your brain responsible for basic coordination. It could leave users collapsing on streets, twitching, unable to stand. That's why it's called the zombie vape. And Japan is sounding the alarm for the world because investigators say this crisis is no longer local. It is spreading through social media, encrypted apps, international smuggling networks, from Okinawa all the way to Tokyo, and now overseas suppliers. According to reports, the epicenter is Okinawa, where police have made at least 10 arrests. Most of the arrested are teenagers and people in their 20s. They are being arrested for possessing a powerful sedative usually used to induce anesthesia during surgeries. Japan officially banned the drug in May, but then its demand exploded online. Users inhale it through vapes, basically, flavored or unflavored, completely unaware of how dangerous it really is. The substance depresses cerebral activity, the region of the brain that controls balance and movement. Its use can cause collapse, loss of consciousness, and in some cases, total loss of control over one's limbs. The police saying the drug is spreading rapidly, primarily through encrypted platforms. Street dealers package the chemical into vape cartridges and sell them hand to hand. This October, police arrested 20-something Yuto Agari, allegedly the leader of a local drug ring. He was found storing nearly 64 grams of etomatate-laced liquid. Investigators believe his group was a major supplier for Okinawa. But the trail does not end there. In Tokyo, 3 Chinese nationals were arrested for smuggling 100 grams of the substance from India via Singapore. They allegedly liquefied the powder, filled cartridges, and sold them repeatedly across the Tokyo metropolitan area, all arranged through social media. Japan's Narcotics Control Department confirming that this is no longer a local phenomenon. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime saying etomidate has been appearing across East and Southeast Asia, including China, And Japanese investigators now warn that a full-fledged black market has emerged. What began as a fringe experiment in Okinawa has now become a nationwide drug threat, fueled by online platforms, cross-border smuggling, and a young population that is chasing dangerous highs. Japan prides itself on having one of the lowest drug use rates in the world. But the use and abuse of these zombie vapes is testing that reputation. And if Japan, a country known for its strict policing of drugs, is facing this, one can only imagine what it could cause elsewhere, in countries where law enforcement already struggles to contain fast-moving drug trends. A deadly tragedy in southeastern Congo. At least 32 miners have died after a bridge collapsed at the Kalando copper and cobalt mine in Lualaba province. In fact, the incident occurred at a site heavily accessed by wildcat miners despite prohibitions due to heavy rain and landslide risks. Authorities saying the miners forced their way, ignoring safety warnings. Provincial officials, including the interior minister, saying that panic followed when soldiers fired at the miners, causing them to rush onto the bridge. The structure collapsed, leaving miners piling on top of each other. While officials report 32 deaths, some local reports suggesting the toll could be as high as 40. This mine has long been a flashpoint with the wildcat miners, a cooperative meant to organize operations, and the site's legal operators, wildcat miners, allege Chinese involvement. Human rights groups, meanwhile, are calling for an independent investigation, expressing concern about the military's role in the tragedy. Congo is the world's largest producer of cobalt, which is a key component in lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles and other items, with Chinese companies controlling 80% of the country's production. The mining industry has long been plagued by child labor, unsafe conditions, corruption. Mineral-rich Eastern Congo also struggles with violence from government forces and armed groups, including the resurgence of the Rwanda-backed M23, further compounding an already acute humanitarian crisis. Provincial authorities have suspended operations at the mine as the investigations continue at this point. Staying with updates coming in from India now, another mining tragedy has occurred in Uttar Pradesh. Rescuers in a race against time as several workers remain trapped under debris from a stone mine that collapsed on Saturday. Authorities saying the death toll has now risen to 6, with the recovery of 5 more bodies from the site early Monday morning. The search is on for 1 more body. One body trapped under the debris was recovered on Sunday by the rescue team. A case has been registered against 2 people who are the owners. 2 NDRF teams, including 80 rescuers, are engaged in rescue operations at the site. One team comprises 40 NDRF rescuers. Each team is also accompanied by a medical team. NDRF rescuers had been using professional corded demolition hammer concrete breakers to clean up the area by breaking, chipping and demolishing the hard materials like concrete, brick, stone. Shifting focus, a tragic bus accident has claimed the lives of 45 Indian pilgrims in Saudi Arabia. Most of the pilgrims on board the ill-fated bus were from Hyderabad in India. The bus carrying 46 people collided with a diesel tanker, resulting in a massive fire that engulfed the vehicle. Only 1 person survived the accident and is currently hospitalized.
A total of 54 people from Hyderabad went through 4 different agencies. At the time of the accident, all of them were in the bus route of 46 persons. Only one survived. Of the 54 people, 46 were traveling by bus, 4 stayed back in Mecca, and another 4 left in a private car. These 8 people are reported to be safe.
Some of the family members still waiting for any word on their loved ones who died in the deadly bus crash.
4 मेंबर है 4 मेरे भाई है, बड़े भाई है मोहम्मद मंजूर, वालदा है शौकत बेगम, भाभी है फरीन बेगम और जाहिन है भतीजी.
Another individual has said that in one night, 18 members of his family, spanning 3 generations, were gone. The Telangana government has announced an amount of 5 lakh rupees each for the families of the victims who died in that bus accident. The state cabinet took the decision of providing the amount to the bereaved families in the meeting held at the secretariat. According to the authorities, a total of 54 people from Hyderabad went through 4 different agencies for the pilgrimage. At the time of the accident, 46 of them were in the bus and the remaining people took private cars. The condition of the only survivor is yet to be fully ascertained. The Indian Prime Minister has said he was saddened by the accident. In a post on social media, he said his thoughts are with the families who have lost their loved ones. He added that he is praying for the swift recovery of all those injured. The Indian External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, has said he was deeply shocked by the accident. In a post, he said the Indian Embassy in Riyadh and the Consulate in Jeddah were extending their fullest support to all the affected families. Following the accident, the Consulate General of India in Jeddah announced that a 24/7 control room and an emergency helpline have been activated to assist the relatives and coordinate the emergency response. The universe keeps reminding us how little we know about it. Every time we think we've mapped all of its mysteries, it throws another curveball our way. Now, NASA has found a red sphere blazing through space at 1 million miles per hour. Our next report telling you more about this.
The universe is a cathedral of riddles, endless, ancient, untamed. It stretches across trillions of light years, so huge that our minds simply can't comprehend. It is a vast expanse where stars are born, planets die, and cosmic nomads wander unseen. For all our telescopes and probes, we still know so very little. The fundamental nature of cosmic speed limits remained fixed until now. This changes everything. NASA astronomers call it Quais J1249, a tiny crimson dot discovered by a team of citizen scientists. At first, it was just a faint flicker in infrared images, but as the data rolled in, disbelief turned to awe. This thing wasn't drifting, it was racing. Its measured speed, 1 million miles per hour, nearly 283 miles per second. That's more than twice the Milky Way's escape velocity. Imagine a world hurled through the galaxy with enough fury to cross the Earth-Moon distance in just 15 minutes. It's not just speed, it's survival in motion. Astronomers believe it might be the remnant of a dying star, a fragment flung out by a supernova explosion, stripped of metals and heat, now wandering alone across the dark vacuum. Astronomers are scrambling to classify the object. What force propels it? Is it a hypervelocity star, ripped from the violence of a galactic core, or something far stranger, perhaps a residual artifact of a colossal, unseen explosion? The unique red spectral signature suggests intense heat or a composition never before catalogued, adding yet another layer to the mystery. Quais J1249's discovery recalls 3I Atlas, another cosmic drifter that entered our solar neighborhood, stirring debate about interstellar visitors. Could these be pieces of ancient worlds, expressions of stellar death, or just the universe shedding its secrets? Even after decades of exploration, the universe still humbles us. A red sphere, racing at impossible speed, reminding humanity that out there, something always moves faster than our understanding. Bureau Report, WION World is one.
President Donald Trump campaigned as the crypto president, promising friendlier regulation, a supportive SEC, broader legitimacy for digital assets. But the strongest sign of fading confidence in the so-called crypto president narrative is coming from Trump's own meme coin. The dollar Trump token, launched in January, has now wiped out nearly 90% of its value. The weakness mirroring a broader loss of momentum across political-themed crypto assets. Despite the administration's pro-crypto rhetoric, the world's largest digital asset has fallen 3.7%, slipping below the level recorded on Trump's inauguration day. Year to date, Bitcoin is up just 2.7%, sharply lagging the 15% gain in the S&P 500. And Bitcoin is now on the verge of erasing all its gains for the year, a stark reversal from its early October record above $126,000. Investor positioning has weakened further. Bitcoin ETFs saw $870 million in outflows last week on Thursday, the second largest withdrawal since launch. Options markets have flipped defensive, a sign that traders are preparing for deeper declines. Liquidity has also thinned, with market depth down nearly 30% from this year's peak, while retail traders remain heavily underwater. The broader macro backdrop continues to weigh heavily on crypto. A short-lived rebound in U.S. equities faded as inflation uncertainty and divisions among the central bankers fueled expectations that the Federal Reserve may keep rates on hold at its crucial December 10 meeting. That reassessment has hit high beta assets hardest. The crypto fear index is now approaching extreme fear, signaling expectations of further sell-offs. Meanwhile, major crypto listings have slumped, with Bitcoin now sitting close to psychological support levels around the low $90,000 range. Analysts warn sentiment is likely to remain fragile until liquidity returns and macro clarity improves. Tiny machines diving through human veins, a new frontier where magnets, medicine, and microengineering collide. Where internal blockages threaten survival, speed and accuracy are everything. And now a revolutionary new approach is set to turn every blood vessel into a navigable waterway. Our next story explaining the promise that micro robots hold. Take a look.
They are smaller than a grain of sand. They move with the precision of a guided missile, and they might reshape the future of how we deliver life-saving drugs inside the human body. These magnetic micro-robots, engineered by researchers at ETH Zurich, are part machine, part miracle. Their mission is simple: carry medicine exactly where it's needed without letting it waste or wander through the rest of the body. Right now, stroke treatment is a race against time. A clot blocks a blood vessel. Brain cells begin to die. Doctors inject drugs to dissolve the blockage. But those drugs don't travel with purpose, they spread everywhere. To make sure enough of the medicine reaches the clot, doctors must give a high dose, and that can lead to dangerous side effects, including internal bleeding. A life-saving drug becomes a balancing act. This is where the micro-robots step in. Guided by magnetic fields, they can swim through blood vessels and steer like underwater drones. They can be directed to move upstream, dodge obstacles, turn corners, and finally arrive at the blocked vessel. Once they reach the clot, they drop their tiny cargo, powerful drugs delivered exactly where the fight is. But this is still the beginning. The technology is in experimental stages, tested in lab conditions and models that mimic the flow of human blood. Researchers are optimistic, but they emphasize one thing clearly. These micro-robots need more testing, more validation, and rigorous checks before they can be used in real patients.
And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Kampesh, signing off, leaving you with Gravitas Worldview. Thanks very much for watching.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.